charge more, so that's where probably the black mage has an edge. But the red mage still, it depends if the good, also with good white magic spells, and we are off.
Yeah, see, I think the first charge of level 3 occurs at, I believe, 6 on the red mage, whereas it's 5 on the black mage. If there are no spells early, it could hurt. We'll see.
Yeah,
so we've got
Harm 4 is yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say we got Fire 2 and Lit 2 in the black magic at level 1. Didn't see much in the white magic at level 1. We got Harm 4, which is situationally good. We'll see how that shakes out for the rest of the match, but looks like we've got at least enough to start clearing some stuff with those level 2 spells, or those tier 2 spells.
Will be white mage only also, so that will give both of those runners a AoE damage for the undead.
Yeah, so the advantage is that one is kind of a push. As we look in the shop, we see not so cheap cabins. That's going to make overworld travel a little rough if there's not money in the start. Travel can be rough if the canoe is one of our first items, and there's not a whole lot of money to be had in Temple of Fiends. The difficulty kind of scales upward a little high. As we see, we got pro rings for 2,800 in the armor shop in Canary. That's very nice.
Even chain armor at 66. It's always good to have chain armor early, because especially for the Angry Canuck, who has 2 people who can equip it.
Yeah, that's definitely a great value for early game. As we see they're making their way to Temple of Fiends now, we're going to see just how treacherous it is. But the difficulty, if you get a canoe start, kind of scales upward a little bit. Hangry's going right for Garland. He's going to try and see if those Lit 2 spells will shake him out. Looks like he burned one on the way, so we'll see what happens as he has Stun Touch. 1 Lit 2 is sufficient, however. Garland goes down. Now he's going to go check his items. Maybe he's been burned 1 or 2 times about Garland and going and checking the items and then killing Garland, and turns out Garland bites back. Maybe that's why he's killing Garland.
And both have Lit 2 on PapaFoiz side.
Oh, spiders with Blizzard. That's going to wreck your day.
It's going to be easy to get those treasure chests in Temple of Fiends.
Yeah, depending on what that... I didn't catch what that first item was, but it's obviously going to depend on what that first item is and whether or not you could skip it. Hangry Canuck knows what it is, so he might be able to skip it. We'll see here. It's a silver shield. You can kind of skip that one. It's not worth a whole lot, and the armor is negligible early. It's certainly nice to get defense, but if you can't get past the Blizzard Spiders, perhaps you skip it.
We have a ship!
We have an early ship spotting. This is not indicative that it's a ship seed. That does not necessarily mean we won't find the canoe or otherwise, but it's a pretty good likelihood.
The tail, and the princess gives the loot.
All right, so far, it's a ship seed. We now have to sail over to Provoca to find out what Bicky and the pirates have. It's a 1 item out of, I think we're down to 7 at this point, so it's not looking good that it's the canoe.
Can not be in a lot of places, I think. It can be right now with what we know. Since it's a ship seed and not a bridge seed, drop like a bridge or a TNT. I think I could be wrong though. I don't think TNT could be in the incentivized locations.
I think you're right. I think it's just the bridge and the ship can be incentivized locations, but because we found the ship, there shouldn't be a bridge and incentivized location. It's been made irrelevant because of the ship and because of the travel it provides. So 1 more incentivized item is at Bicky, and it's going to tell us exactly what's going to happen to seed. If it is not the canoe, there is the possibility of a few different things. We haven't seen the Bible item. Bicky could have the crown. That would lead us to the kindly old king in Northwest Castle and a dive for all of the crown chests. It could be a whole host of anything else, and and we could have to dive the Marsh Cave. As we're going to look at level 2 spells, Heal 3 in level 2 is very nice. Fighter's going to be able to pick that up later. Heal 3 is very good for places like the volcano where you take tons and tons of damage. We got Ice 3 is about the only thing over on the black magic side, so not a terrible start in terms of magic, but certainly not been favorable for our runners.
It's spells that will Heal 3 will be useful probably towards the end game because it will save you some heal potions. It's probably faster than healing one potion at a time, 30 HP. Is not really something you really want for endgame. It's gonna help though, maybe
So that's interesting. Vicky has the floater.
Yeah, and I don't think there's one thing now we need to find the canoe.
So we're out of
the big question.
Yeah. Oh, I was to say, sorry about that. We're out of incentivized locations, so now we're on a chest checking expedition.
To check right now, and to do a pop grind.
I'm not 100% sure I mind this play. I don't think PapaFoiz saw the blizzard spiders. If he did, then he knows they're coming in the Marsh Cave, which is a potential for our runners. But you've got Harm 4, and you've got Fire 2. A pop grind is not a terrible idea if you think Marsh is going to be dreaded or otherwise. It's a mixed bag on whether or not one should grind, but you do have the tools to do it, and it looks like you've got a first turn Zombles, which is definitely also a good sign.
Places that haven't been checked. We don't know if the crown is the viable item for now. There's also possibility that we have Batoya that's hiding it. So I think Marsh would be the last place that I think people will check. And I forgot about Dwarf Cave because we haven't checked that because we didn't have another canoe.
Unfortunately, the pop grind is no longer safe. The Zombles also have Blizzard.
Did the Medusa script?
That is not a good sign for PapaFoiz, who looks like he might be committing to this. If he can get through 1 or 2 fights, it'll net him a huge benefit. But did I just see blizzards on the sharks as well?
Seed.
So we've got Hangry heading over to Matoya's Cave. Not a bad play. You got 3 chests up there, and if you can get up there reliably, then it's definitely worth the time.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
If you find it's the big question where you find the TNT now. I would have gone to Outland first to know, but I don't mind that play because you will know if you find the TNT there, you can just further to find where the canoe is. But it probably means that without the canoe could be in a vanilla location. That's what I forgot because. That would be the worst thing in this.
Definitely. And Canuck making kind of the right play, going ahead and resetting out when he only sees his money in a heal potion. Not a bad thing. It depends on how much money you have, because I wonder if he should take that money for Alpha level 3 spells. But, sort of to each their own. He's going to go check the Dwarf Cave now and see if it's got anything.
Oh, and lazy dwarves! It's been a long time we have seen you.
Wow, how long has it been since we've had lazy dwarves? I mean, we're talking back in the 1.6.4 days before NPC shuffle. So here's an interesting play. Now, you haven't been to Elfland. Do you just go ahead and make the check for Crescent Lake stages, or do you want to go see what's at level 3 first?
I would prefer to check Crescent Lake because, like, I want to know if I really need to dive Earth or Mars before that.
If you're looking for trolliness out of this seed, you absolutely do not want a vanilla canoe right here, because then it means our runners are going to have to dive Earth Cave or Mars Cave or find the crown. In order, not, or it could be Earth Cave. It could be a ruby locked canoe. You could need to find the ruby and it be behind Sarda.
Before
we have the ship. We have the ship, so yeah, it can't be Waterfall Cave. You need the canoe for that. So we're basically looking at either Sages or Sarda as our canoe location.
It also can be viable, from what I understand.
The canoe itself is not buyable because the only things that you can buy are items you can put right into your inventory. So the things like the bridge, the ship, the canoe that have a world map location cannot be bought. So that leaves the rest of the incentivized pool as the buyable items, which, like I said, it could lead to the crown. It could lead to, you know, something else, but it cannot be an item that goes on the world map.
PapaFoiz is keeping the black belt dead, and I think he's going to stay there until maybe the end. If you need someone to take a hit from a fiend.
Well, we gotta hope that we see Life or Life 2 at 3 or 4, because anything beyond that, and it's going to become more strategic when you want to either resurrect that black belt or otherwise, because you may need to conserve those charges. As we see Cobras with cremate, that's not particularly good.
It doesn't have cabins or tents now, so it would be really hard for him to just get in, and that's not going to help.
Yeah, money's at a little bit of a premium at this point. We really only saw about 4,000 gold in Matoya's Cave that we know Hangry skipped out on. Otherwise, we've only seen cabins at about 160 gold, and then houses are not bad at 735. And see, PapaFoiz is also going to reset out of that Matoya's Cave, vying that 4,000 gold really isn't a whole lot for him at this point. I guess you probably value the time. You're going to go back and get it later, potentially, if you need the crown, or you have the crown chain quest, because you'll be back in there to get the crystal, so he could just opt to pick it up then, if it's of value.
It's not going to be easy, but I'm guessing with the levels that PapaFoiz picked up, he probably has enough to get to Crescent Lake.
So this has been interesting. This has been very interesting. We've had sharks, we've had zombies, and we've had spiders, all with the Blizzard spell, all within the first... We've seen it within the first 10 minutes of the game. So it's been a bit of a treacherous start for our runners. And unfortunately, I think thehangrycanuck is having a rough time trying to make it across with a limited number of save items.
We'll see the lazy dwarves soon. Hasps have Scorch. He's wreck thehangrycanuck again. Another wipe. It's not good for him.
That's pretty crazy, because we had Cobras with cremate, Asps with Scorch, as PapaFoiz picks up his TNT. back before NPC Shuffle, there was always a big debate on whether or not one should check the 2 chests in the Dwarf Cave before going and hitting up, say, the Marsh Cave or something like that. And this is one of those seeds where it happens to pay off.
Because we don't know what's in Marsh. Maybe everything was in Marsh, but like we will never know. It looks like the Angry Canuck picked up the canoe, so now he can pick up his floater now.
It's a good call on Hangry Canuck's part. That is going to put him slightly ahead. I think PapaFoiz went with the pop grind and all the failures of the pop grind, and despite the failures of the pop grind, Hangry Canuck really had those few wipes. He's really not that far behind once he gets through. If he goes right to Crescent Lake and checks those sages with an appropriate number of saving items across the way, PapaFoiz really is not that far behind.
Canuck is going to Sarda, I think.
Yeah, long way. The back way, the scenic route to Sarda. And we'll see what Sarda's got. Sarda has our slab. That's a good pickup right here. You can take that right over to Melmond. Or you can sail up, do your Cardia Islands tail turn in, and then come back down and check the spells and be able to pick up any spells on Red Wizard that you may want or need. Otherwise, it's the world is Hangry Canuck's oyster at this point.
And rerolls have heat, so a lot of damage enemies.
The worst part is we've seen Blizzard, and Blizzard's kind of a big one, certainly, but there's a few others out there. We still have damage poison, we have status poison, we still have Blaze out there.
Also Bane, Zap. They're never fun.
So yeah, it's a bit of a rough seed. Bit of a rough start for our runners with everything having Blizzard, basically. And these Gerwolves definitely are not going to treat Hangry Canuck very well. We have not seen Warper exit yet. That's another place where our runners are struggling slightly. It looks like Hangry Canuck's party is still like level 4. So even if he had found Warper exit, he wouldn't be able to use it yet.
I don't think anybody checked Elfland, though.
No, our runners have not been to Elfland yet, which is not a terrible thing. They did the Dwarf Cave sort of gamble check, and it paid off for them, and that's why we haven't seen Elfland yet. As I missed what was at White 5. Black 5's got Temper in a good spot for that red. Oh well, all of the spells you can use level 5 on Red Wizard. Me, personally, I would have liked to have seen a tail turn in before making this check, because that Temper is going to be worth picking up, and he is going to have to come back here and pick up Temper again on his Red Wizard. Run up, do Cardia Islands and the tail turn in, and then continue going north and hit Elfland and all that jazz right in there. Pick up the spells as necessary and whatnot. Then make your way back to Melmond and pick up those 5s and translate your slab.
Like magic, I saw Emute, Idms, and Ruse. So it wasn't spells that you really out of use. Ruse could help.
We got a max gold chest there.
Yeah, that's always good to see. And spend all the money you need for your spells in Elfland at level 4, because you will have class change then.
So I did not see whether Crescent Lake had the Bible item yet. I think our runners have been. I don't think it did. I think that was where our houses were. Oh, we're about to see here. Okay, nope. We got cheap tents, though. That's a very nice find. Flame Armor's not a bad pickup early. That's a lot of absorb and might arguably be the bare minimum armor you want to take into Temple of Fiends endgame.
Me, I prefer to have at least steel armor if I really don't find one of those
Yeah, steel armor often goes overlooked because it's only viable. You cannot find it in a treasure chest. It typically is pretty expensive, but usually you'll find something in the hopefully in the flame armor minimum. Not always, but usually.
So, PapaFoiz has picked up his floater now. 20 minutes in, he must think he's probably behind because of his pop grind. I'm wondering where he will try to save time to make up for the time that he lost by going to a pop.
Interesting thing to note, I don't think thehangrycanuck class changed.
Does he think that he wants to use the black belt?
I don't know. It makes things a little interesting because then, he isn't going to have access on the red wizard to some of those potentially early spells, which realistically, I've not seen 3 and 4 yet. Aside from that, the white mage spells have been very underwhelming. The black mage spells have been okay. With Ice 3 at 2 is not bad. Nothing worth class changing over. We've got that Temper at 5, which, if I remember right, that Temper at 5 needs a red wizard upgrade, but he's not going to need it immediately. So it looks like now thehangrycanuck is going to take the Peninsula Power Grind. He does not realize these zombies are absolutely not friendly.
He sees that first fight. PapaFoiz will translate his slab in Melmon now. Chooses to train actually in Crescent Lake. It might be safer with what we know right now.
Yeah, the tough call is you're still, I think in thehangrycanuck's case, he's still level 4. You didn't get a whole lot of travel that netted you worthwhile enemies. The sea was quite treacherous, and sea is usually not good for experience. The river system, he got his canoe late, so you didn't really get a chance to take on the hydras or the 6 Caribs that net you at least a decent amount of experience at that level. Yeah, we'll see what Crescent Lake has to offer if he can try either force a Pede fight or something. As we've got Lit 3 at level 3, the black magic continues to be somewhat underwhelming, while the white magic continues to be bad.
The only thing, and it's white mage only.
Yeah, Cure 3 is white mage only. That's rough. This has definitely been kind of not necessarily a red mage seed. So perhaps advantage PapaFoiz for not bringing it. There's Nuke at 4. Finally, we've got something.
Drac also. If you want to do meme strats against the last 2 fiends.
So here's some good news, bad news for our runners. The good news is that the black mage gets his first charges of level 4 at level 8. So it's not going to take PapaFoiz very long to give him access to that nuke. He'll get that first charge at 8. He'll get the second charge at 9. So he'll immediately have 2 charges of nuke he can use to clear, kind of whatever he wants. If he wants to do a first floor volcano dive for levels or otherwise. The bad news is that red mage does not get that first charge of 4 until I believe level 11. So it's actually going to take a little longer for thehangrycanuck to have that access of nuke.
But yeah, that's also always a risk you're willing to take when you use a red mage.
Yeah, it's nice to have the utility of being able to cast both spells. It's even great to have more charges of the lower level stuff, as Hangry is now discovering he cannot use. He gets his nuke on red mage, but he's not going to be using it for a little while. The utility is nice. Getting the larger amounts of charges at lower levels is nice, but at the expense of sort of an early game hindrance on being able to, because there's a 3-level advantage. Now those 3 levels are they're kind of nothing if you are able to get your way through a volcano dive or even a castle ordeals cleared. Those 3 levels can be nothing, but if you're struggling to get to 8, then it might be a little bit of a problem. This is where our advantage, might go to PapaFoiz having access to that nuke spell sooner.
Yeah, and it's already level 7, I think, on this black mage.
And that's not a bad idea to take a couple of fights in the process of doing the Cardia Islands chest. Some of these enemies are at least halfway decent for experience for his level. If he could just get level 8, he might even be able to pop over to the Castle Ordeal area. If he can get one more level between the airship park and the castle, he'll have 2 charges and nuke for that dungeon, as well as harm 4 against any of the undead. But let's not forget, those zombies were quite unfriendly, and they're going to be at Castle Ordeal.
It might be a deterrent right now.
Well, there's Blaze. So we have Blaze on the Catmen. Catmen we will find in outside of Castle Ordeal's area and in the Floating Fortress Sky Castle. So keep an eye out on those later, because we now have Blaze in a somewhat higher level monster.
Out of the class change, I think he doesn't value the black belt, magic defense, and I mean, you have 3 people who should be able to get you.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what our runners do from here, because right now we have not seen our buyable item. The buyable item is not in the southern hemisphere, which means we are down to 3 locations it can be. It could be in the caravan, which is not bad. You could land on top of the tile to check him. He could be in Onrak, which is just a little bit of a walk. And then we've got Waterfall Cave, or I'm sorry, we're talking about buyable items, Gaia, where Gaia's kind of on the other side of the world, on the north-hand side. Since our runners have the airship, they can go check that one pretty easily. We're still missing a handful of items, too. We're missing our cube. We're missing our bottle. And we are missing the rod. We are missing the crown. Some of these items are going to be interesting depending on where they're located. As we got thehangrycanuck, looks like he's doing an ice cave dive.
I think he's grinding here. I don't think he's there for wanting to just do ice to like check the chest here.
Wow, gold bracelets are 11,000. That's amazing find after finding that max gold chest. Now any mage runner basically can pick up, I mean anybody really, but it's going to benefit his mage runners heavily to have gold bracelets.
Oh.
Check the item shop. Check the item shop. Oh, he's going to resurrect some people.
I'm kind of surprised he revived. He didn't check the item shop before because it's right there.
He's still not checking the item shop. That is also interesting. I mean, unless I've missed it, or Slick Fingers, our tracker, thank you so much tonight. I don't know if I have seen the buyable item yet. So, go ahead.
He might, and wow, a good encounter. Sandworms.
I like this play. I like this play for his level, because if he's got a house, which I believe he at least has 1 if he didn't buy 10 because they were so cheap, if he can get at least 1 more level, if not a couple of levels, before he gets to the castle entrance, he's going to be in great shape for this castle deals. The only thing he's going to have to look out for is he's going to have to look out for those blizzard zombies. And then the mystery of what we haven't seen in that dungeon yet.
Ordeals where you really want to take, you might take a couple of tries just to know where what will be the combination to be able to get through, and after that just to get past the zombies.
So getting a couple of sandworms early is kind of huge. They're a halfway decent value experience if they can get the kills really easily. 905 for the 3 over that, and that's a fairly decent amount of experience. Just grinding his way, taking the fights on the way to castle deals, grabbing those much needed levels to give you multiple charges of nuke. We will now see how friendly castle deals is to PapaFoiz. All right, so if you guys are new to Final Fantasy Randomizer but have played Final Fantasy in the past, you will know that Castle Ordeals, you are supposed to take the bottom pillar as here comes those zombies with Blizzard that we were talking about earlier. You usually take the bottom pillar, but in the Randomizer, our wonderful developers have managed to actually randomize the pillars. And so these are actually choices now that the runners have to make, with consequences including but not limited to being kicked all the way back to the start of the dungeon. So it looks like we've got up, down as our first two in the passcode.
I mean, I think it's really difficult. Sometimes I forget if I went to a place and I'm like, I went there. That bad because I mean, if you don't have warp, it's less of a problem because you're just going to try until you run out of until you die or you run out of ideas.
I don't know if PapaFoiz is going to go back and watch this VOD, but I really would have liked to have seen him take that Medusa fight. As that, he hits one of the portals that kicks him all the way back to the start of the dungeon. I would have liked to have seen him take that Medusa fight. 1 fire 2, and those things will go down pretty easily. 4 or 5 Medusas at this level is a decent amount of experience.
We have trance mages.
Ooh. Speaking of mages, also, that's actually not a bad fight over on thehangrycanuck side. If you can get those mages down, they typically have low hit points and hopefully have something not so bad behind trance. That could be a good value fight as well if you get 3 or 4 mages.
So I don't see grinding on them.
Oh no, the zombies also have dazzle behind that blizzard. And then heat, so these zombies are a little weird. Oh, wow. Zombies are the secret champion of this run. And PapaFoiz makes it out of the maze. Now he knows the passcode. He's going to reset his party and try and take his full party through. As we've got checking sort of the bottom floor of chests in the ice cave. I didn't see if he checked the Frostwolf chest or not.
He didn't, but he found the light axe. That's pretty much the highlight from the 5 chests there.
So we've got a light axe on each side because PapaFoiz has one as well. He must have found that somewhere because he's got a light axe and he hasn't been to the ice cave yet.
Yeah, they picked it up earlier. I don't remember where, but both of them have and that's the thing on thehangrycanuck. He has 2 light axes, so that will be useful though. So red mage can't learn harm 4.
So PapaFoiz has made it through the maze. There are no zombies on this floor, if I remember right. So we've got a whole lot of nothing. There's the wooden staff. That is Will Cleosis' favorite weapon. We have a ribbon sighting, and that is going to be a huge pickup. 2 ribbons! Wow!
Ordeals is stacked. Who has always told me you always have to go to Ordeals. Crown is behind in Ordeals. So big question, do you not?
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting play on whether you take the Crown Chain quests early or if you just leave them. Personally, at this point, I kind of want to do them. You've not found major armor for your knight yet. You really don't have a big sword yet. And you don't have access to temper yet. Well, his Black Mage might have it now. He hit level 11, which I think you get your first charge of 5 at either 11 or 12. So as soon as he gets that one, the 2 Saria fights also really good. He's taken this one for a lot of money.
Ice had the bottle.
So interesting pickup for, we sort of have cross-incentivized dungeons here with the Castle Ordeals having the crown and the Ice Cave having the bottle. It's going to be interesting to see where both of our runners go next. Oh, with the Catman with Blaze again.
big thing is like, can the Hangry Canuck get out of here? That's the danger when you don't have warp or exit. You have to do it twice around the. It's really hard, but you have to do it. I think when I was a kid playing Final Fantasy 1, I think going to Ice Cave was probably the worst thing.
Yeah, Ice Cave is typically kind of rough. Sometimes it can be not so bad. It looks like this Ice Cave is kind of in the not so bad category. But I'm with you. When I was a kid, I always like to go to the Ice Cave first. I always like to get my airship and my tail before going and taking on carrying the volcano. As we can see, Canuck makes his way out of the Ice Cave successfully with his bottle, and now he's going to get out of here and find other ventures. We've got a stake sighting on PapaFoiz's side. It looks like he's going to take it on here. We'll see if the Tyro bites back or not.
Straight to volcano.
One of the other things decided, we've not seen warp, fast, or exit. Those are kind of big ones. Personally, I think depending on how this is going, I almost would have liked to see Canuck grab a couple of levels on the eye. If not for nothing, you get that first charge of nuke at 11. I don't know what level he is to be able to say how many charges he has, but if he could sneak up to like 14, I think he gets that third charge. That will make things a little easier for him, but Ice 3 looks like it's getting the job done. Level 12 on that red mage, so he just got his second charge of nuke. Probably would have liked to see that before coming to the volcano, but hey, maybe you killed the eye really quickly and you don't want to risk seeing what he actually has. So we got PapaFoiz working on the Astos fight, doing his crown chain stuff, probably going to dig for those treasures.
Can nuke to the face. So PapaFoiz kills Astos, and he's probably going to the crown. No.
Yeah, so here he doesn't need it, but he could pick up that 4,000-ish gold.
He's going to need it. The only thing that would really look for is like a spell like maybe level 7 if he sees them. Take it's in his plan to look for level 7 white magic. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, and see, this is where if Hangry goes back and watches this VOD and learns and grows, he's one of our new players, but he's been doing a fairly solid job at 2-2 here. It's good to see him get to the point where he can qualify with the playoffs with a win today. I would like to have seen that eye grind because I think it saves you time in taking a Pede fight like that, where the Pedes take a little longer to kill to get your party members some good experience. You could skip that fight if you had gotten, say, level 14 or otherwise from the eye grind.
Often the eye grind is used because you just want to make sure you survive Ice Cave after the treacherous walk back.
Yeah, and it's a tough call depending on how many resources you have, because sometimes it might be better for you to have some levels. Is he skipping the firefight trap tile underneath the right chest there? One of the actually downsides I didn't really point out also to Hangry Canuck's party is we talked earlier about the sort of deficiency with Red Mage and how they get their charges. One of the other things is between fighter Red Mage and White Mage, they have among the poorest run rates, the poorest luck stat of any of the classes. This is a small advantage to PapaFoiz. The Black Mage has the second best run rate, the second best luck skill in the game. And so running from fights you don't want to take is going to come a little more easily to PapaFoiz. As you noticed in that previous fight, or one of the previous fights with that Red Hydra, Hangry Canuck failed to run on the first turn. That is less likely to happen on PapaFoiz's side.
PapaFoiz still looking for a weapon. I think that's the only thing that he's looking for to just.
Well, at this point, yeah, and there's Opal Armor and Defense Sword, huge pickups here. And the Adamant, huge pickups here in Dwarf Cave Crown Chests. You've got to think that PapaFoiz is pretty close to being in the gear go mode 2 ribbons, opal armor, Excalibur, and defense sword. The only thing you're really lacking at this point is the power gauntlet, and that's not always required. Temper at 5 is going to give his Black Mage the ability to use that on higher level fiends, so it is certainly possible he could go without. At this point, if I'm him and I feel like I'm a little behind with that failed pop grind, perhaps you feel like you're in go mode.
Pick up on the Angry Canuck side. Also, we found the ice shield.
It was ice armor, so at best it's going to be a sellable at this point.
Side that he had an ice shield.
So we're going to go pick up some spells, and we can get some more of those really dirt cheap pro rings here. This is a great pickup for the runners. I just go ahead and get one on all your guys. If you find the power gauntlet, you find the power gauntlet, but if you don't, you might want that pro ring on your fighter. One of the other things that we have not seen yet, and I talked earlier about how we have not seen Warp or Exit or Fast. We've also not seen Life or Life 2, unless it was in level 6 when the runners were in Crescent Lake and I missed it, but we've not seen Life or Life 2 yet. Grey Worms, Edge Figaro, hey, thank you so much for pointing this out, and I missed it in chat. The Grey Worms also have Blaze. We will see those on the fire floor of Temple of Fiends Revisited, so we'll see if that gives our runners any problem in the future. Make a mental note a little bit of the Catmen with Blaze we will see in Sky Castle, and the Grey Worms with Blaze that we will continue to see here in the Volcano, as well as seeing in Temple of Fiends Revisited.
Looks like Angry Canuck is going to go deeper in Volcano.
Well, we have a life sighting. Good news, bad news. Well, no, good news, bad news. Good news is PapaFoiz has access to all those white magic spells thanks to having a white mage. Same with thehangrycanuck. The bad news is that wall spell is only going to be for the white wizard. It is in the top slot of level 6 white, therefore it is out of reach to that red mage. Thankfully, Cure 4 and Life, though at level 6, is accessible by the red wizard.
Yeah, but the problem with the Cure 4 in Life, it's you need to be level 20, I think, to get 1 charge.
Yeah, that is one of the downsides as a red mage is you're pretty well capped at about level 6. If you're lucky, a lot of our runners will come into Temple of Fiends at level 18, 19, what have you. You'll fall short of the level 6 charge on your red mage and the level 7 charge on your pure casters. And so sometimes there's the dragon armor. That's a great pickup. And the white shirt in the armory.
I probably missed the dragon armor though, but that's honestly with the dragon armor, if he finds the Aegis shield, he might think about putting the ribbon on his other mage and hope that it will do the job, except if he sees those bad spells like Zap and
yeah.
There's stuff I'm thinking of.
Yeah, because if you have Dragon Armor, Aegis Shield, and a Pro Ring, you are protected from 6 of the 8 elemental affinities. The 2 areas that you are not protected, by default, you're not protected from non-elemental attacks such as Trance. That one's actually kind of a big one because that can ruin your day, even with ribbons. And then you'd be lacking the Time element. There's actually only, I think, 2 things in the game, one of them being the ribbon, the other being the black shirt that has Time element resistance, and that is your Zap spell, basically. There's another one I think that's considered time magic that you wouldn't think, but I can't think of what it is at the moment.
Top, I think, is Time Elemental. I could be wrong.
I think you're right. And so we've got PapaFoiz walking out his treasures. I think thehangrycanuck must have found all the same things as well, as he's now made a deeper volcano dive. He has all the same dragon armor and all those axes. The only thing is thehangrycanuck has not class changed yet. If he gets to level 15 without class changing, he will miss a potential spell charge on his fighter. Now, realistically, the only thing I think we've seen that was of worth in the first 3 levels was that heal 3. So it's probably not too much of a detriment to class change late. White magic has been pretty rough this seed.
We're kind of going to reveals, which we really like once he gets there.
Yeah, definitely. Ordeals has the crown, which gives you access to 28 chests. 24 of them are relatively within easy reach. The two of the chests in Castle Ordeals are 2 ribbons, and then the dwarf dive gets you the Excalibur by way of the adamant, the defense sword, which is a huge defensive pickup for your knight, and at least an opal armor, but he'll have the dragon armor from the armory.
Big question.
Glare, that's the. Oh, I was just gonna say yes. Edgefinger pointing out glare is the other one. That was a weird one. You don't realize that his time magic is glare.
You know what? I know Ribbon protects it against that, but like I honestly never know what kind of magic it is. It's going to kill some Agamas.
They look a little friendly. They're under 300 hit points. Probably only does that one. Oh, maybe he does a second.
Kill some Agamas. Just getting all those fights on Ice 3 that you have will be easy. Like, it's not like you're gonna use Ice 3 against Carry.
That is true. Carry has a high amount of resistance to elemental magic, and so those Ice 3s, though they sound good, and they sound good with ice on a fire being, they're really barely going to scratch 100 hit points tops, and so we'll see how PapaFoiz handles the carry fight. I don't remember if he got his temper on that black mage. He'd be able to use it at this point, certainly, but without that temper, we're just going off of raw power from the fighter. As we do see him taking the red D chest, this is probably so he can take these fights and maybe get to level 16 before the carry fight. I don't mind this play that much.
And I think Blizzard's Zombles killed Hangry Canuck. It's really hard to just get through. Thor Hammer behind the Red Dragon.
It's not a bad pickup. Your white mage
best
been able to do a whole lot offensively, and so getting that Thor Hammer, I think it had been using the Zeus Gauntlet, which will open up Fighter to do some AoEs if you move the Zeus Gauntlet over, or otherwise gives the white mage something to do, which is always nice.
Thor Hammer is actually the second best weapon for the white wizard.
So we had a life sighting in level 6. It means life 2, fade, warp, exit, fast are all somewhere. I didn't see black 6 actually, so it could be in black 6. I didn't get a good peek at that. If anybody else did, feel free to pipe up. What was it? Black magic level 6. Otherwise, not seeing warp or exit is huge for our runners because they're going to have to navigate the waterfall cave down and back. As we've got PapaFoiz lighting his first orb, getting over the carry fight at the 48-minute mark. PapaFoiz now step into Ice Cave, pick up his bottle, and move on.
The question will be, who will find the first vendor item? Because we still don't know where it is.
Yeah, our runners have not checked this yet. PapaFoiz was in Gaia, but did not opt to look to see if it was in Gaia or not. That could have saved a little bit of time, depending on how he routes the item checks going forward. Right now, he's doing kind of everything Southern Continent. As we see Hangry Canuck picking up his 2 ribbons, he's got to be glad to see those.
Got here from Hangry Canuck. How many zombie Ds will he want to kill?
I almost wonder, depending on how bad they don't look too bad. They did not hit the fighter very hard. I almost wonder if the only thing you have to worry about is the step off encounter. Otherwise, you could take some of those until you exhaust your magic. If you had some houses to replenish outside, which he does. But he might feel comfortable with the levels he's got to continue. I'd probably do it if I were level 11 or something like that, but I think he's got to feel fine where he's at.
You probably have enough level now.
That double Samworn fight. Almost would have liked to seen him take it.
It's like, it's honestly too tempting to not.
I mean, I think with all those houses, you could replenish your nukes easily. I almost think maybe you take it. If you feel like you need to grab a level here and there or grab a good fight here and there, I almost think that double Samworm fight would have been good. He keeps blitzing through it. I only ever see his level 4 black belt. I don't know what the rest of his party is. 12. I would have liked to have taken that double Sandworm fight.
Not get that. Double Sandworm fight is like, I think, the second biggest overworld encounter in this game. The first being the mighty rare T-Rex, which we haven't seen a lot in this tournament.
No, one of the features of this tournament that we thought was going to increase the number of T-Rex sightings is our encounter table shuffle. This is different from our RNG table shuffle. The RNG table shuffle has to do specifically with steps it takes to get into a fight. But before this tournament, the developers coded the encounter table shuffle. So in any 64 by 64 tile in the overworld and every floor of every dungeon that has enemies, there are 8 distinct encounters that a runner can get into in these regions. They're labeled 1 through 8, and their occurrence, their frequency rate is commensurate with where they are. So 1 being the most common, 8 being the least common. The encounter table shuffle does 2 things. 1, it shuffles encounters 3 through 8 around, and then it shuffles encounters 1 through 5 around. And so if an 8 slips into like a 5 slot or lower, they can then sort of be shuffled again. But unfortunately, we have not seen a higher occurrence of things like T-Rexes and stuff like that. And one little caveat of that is the Warmech is actually immune from the encounter table shuffle. You will not see Warmechs more often than they already occur naturally.
Yeah, and PapaFoiz picked up this. It was Battle. Is doing his crown chain now.
Yeah, I like this play because he's at the point where he still hasn't found a big weapon yet, and so he's going to be very happy when he sets foot into the dwarf cave and not only finds the big weapon but finds the big defensive weapon in the defense sword. And then, of course, the 2 ribbons that occurred from Castle Deals. Castle Deals is going to ultimately yield a fairly good amount of equipment.
With ordeals is it's easy to check every chest there. I personally really like it's not like you lose a lot of steps when you go to ordeals anyways. There's a temper pickup on PapaFoiz's side, which will be helpful probably, especially if you only have Excalibur for the last couple of fiends.
Yeah, the only downside to that is, and I say only as to stress that it's not a terrible thing, is I think at most you're only going to get like 4 charges, I think, throughout the game of that level 5. So you really have to ration them out a little more sparingly on the boss fights when you get to Temple of Fiends. PapaFoiz going and turning in his bottle. I don't think I've seen him walk into the Gaia item shop. We know it's not there, but I don't think I've seen PapaFoiz walk into it. He was right over the caravan tile on the western half of the world. Would have liked to have seen him do the caravan check there, but I don't think he's been in the item shop. If that's what he's looking for, he's either going to luck out or he's going to check Gaia before anything else again. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so now he's going to do his caravan check. So we know our item is, and this is the other thing that we know the final item is the rod, and we know now that the rod is the buyable item in OnRack. It's the last possible oh no, I'm sorry, we haven't checked Waterfall Cave yet. It's either going to be the rod or the cube, if I remember right. So we're going to check that buyable item right here. It is a nearly max price cube. So we had a max price chest or a max gold chest earlier in Cardia Islands. We now have a nearly max gold cube for our runners to pick up in OnRack, which leaves the rod as the last incentivized item to get in the waterfall cave. We got a life 2 sighting, life 2 at 7 outside of the red mage's spot. We've got a warp sighting at level 7 outside of the red mage or red wizard spot as well. So we know, and we got Hangry kind of memeing it up with the hooray dwarf there.
I've done like at least 4 times, I think. Now, as without the money right now to buy the cube, either going to mermaids. I wouldn't right now, but I've done that in races because I didn't take out money to buy a viable item that I needed there.
I think Hangry's fine. He's got his 100. He's got like 100, and he's got a 6-digit salary there. He's gonna be all right for buying that item. At this point, it's gonna be interesting to see what our runners do because they both have their Oxeals. Do you go ahead and take Sea Shrine right here? I think you probably do. Just go ahead and get your Waterfall Cave item, get in and out, maybe get a level 2 if you're lucky. Hit that Sea Shrine up, get that orb taken care of, grab your cube, and leave. We got an underrated high-value fight kind of on both sides. Those Frost Gators, that Frost Gator Red Carib fight is worth a fairly large amount of experience.
Yeah, it's an encounter that you really want to find sometimes, especially because like you will go to Waterfall after that, and like maybe like that extra level could do the difference in being easier because you will have to go back out and maybe we'll find the one enemy I would love to find if I'm one of those runners would be the Green Dragon.
That's another rare encounter here. I think it's either an encounter 7 or 8 in this waterfall cave, and it's one that has not shown up a whole lot. It's been almost as rare as the T-Rex. We really have not seen. You can actually get, I think, either 1 or 2 gas dragons in this waterfall cave, and they're worth a healthy amount of experience if you kill them. I think they're at least 1,000 or about 4,000 a piece divided among your runners.
So PapaFoiz picks up his rod, and he also got an opal shield out of that.
Yeah, that's going to be satisfactory. If you just stick a ribbon on that fighter, the opal shield will certainly be satisfactory in the level of absorb it provides. I believe it provides the same amount of absorb as the Aegis shield, with the not added benefit of the earth and poison protection.
It's mainly with the Dragon Armor acquired for PapaFoiz. It's mainly a shield that you're focused on protection. It gives I think 4 armor higher than the ice or flame shield, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it depends, because see, with 3 party members, I almost think you stick one of those ribbons on fighter just for the added protections that this current armor does not provide. In a melee kind of heavy situation like this, where basically your nuke spell's at 4, so you're really not going to take too many enemies down with nuke. You're going to be kind of in a melee heavy situation. You want to make sure that fighter is protected at all costs, so you're probably going to move that ribbon over anyway. Leaving the Aegis shield something to be desired, but you can go without.
Also, one thing that's different from both our party, PapaFoiz put his fighter in the first slot, which means that the fighters should get the knight should get, I think it's it would be like it's hard to do math live on Twitch.
It's okay. I got you covered. So each slot represents a specific chance to hit. So if your players are on the bottom, they get a less likely chance to be hit. Over the 100% spectrum, the top slot is 50%, the second slot is 25%, and the bottom 2 slots share 12.5% each. So what PapaFoiz has done is he's put his fighter in the first slot, giving him a 50% chance that all attacks hit the fighter. The second slot is a skip, but it still counts. And I'll explain that here in a second as he's making his way into Onrak and towards the Sea Shrine. That second slot counts, so I'll explain that in a second. And the two bottom slots are 12.5%. So more likely, fighter's going to get hit. Now, if the black belt gets hit, which he can still be targeted with hits, it'll make a check. It will say, okay, black belt's dead, readjust the numbers. And then the numbers go to 66% for your top slot. No. It's 50%. No. Now we're doing math on Twitch. It's a little higher each. Distribute those numbers where it's a little higher to hit the fighter and then the other two. It basically readjusts. What thehangrycanuck has done is he's put his dead character in the top slot, which means there's a 50% chance it will hit the top character. When it does, it goes back and it rechecks and distributes those percentages slightly higher. So in actuality, his red mage and white mage are actually at a slighter risk of getting hit than in PapaFoiz's position. The only reason that logically is something you would do is if you happen to have that dead thief in the top, because the game only checks which characters in which slot for things like ambush rating and stuff like that. That'd be about the only reason to leave a character in the top slot without... thank you, Edge Figaro is pointing in chat the percentages. It's 66% for the fighter and then 16% for each of the bottom two mages. So it is a slightly increased chance to hit. But the more important thing is it's going to make that check twice more often than not on, or at least as often as not on thehangrycanuck's side for not putting fighter in the top slot.
And we've got the unrunnable with Sahag's red Sahag's combination that is unrunnable, that even to it's a shuffle unrunnable, it will always be unrunnable because it's on the B side of the pirate, the 9 pirate fight we've seen earlier.
Yeah, so if you're new to our randomizer, if you're new to how Final Fantasy's inner workings are sort of fleshed out, to save space, I think there's an A side and a B side to every encounter, as opposed to it recording just multiple unique encounters. They record an A side and a B side for using the same encounters in different locations. So the pirates need to remain unrunnable in our unrunnable shuffle for purposes of getting the item that you need to progress. The B side of that encounter is the Wizard Sahag, Red Sahag, as PapaFoiz takes yet another fight of that. And so that is our only mandatory unrunnable. It remains unrunnable for the entirety of the game, regardless of the encounter table shuffle, because it is that B side rating of the pirates fight. Now that we're at the hour mark, let's do a little bit of a recap as PapaFoiz is hitting the Gershark fight, making his way down to Kraken. So we had a ship required seed. We had ship in Temple of Fiends. The two items from King and Sarah were... This is why you write stuff down, folks.
Yeah, it was the loot, I think, and it was the float. Vicky had the floater.
Yeah, Vicky had the floater, yep. So it was what do we have? Slab Baby? No, Slab was at Sarda. That was a quick local pickup. We had Crown and Castle Ordeals. We had the Ice Cave having the bottle. The Rod is in the Waterfall Cave. The Cube was the buyable item. So yeah, we had Tail and Loot as our starting items. So we had a ship required seed in which the TNT was at the Lazy Dwarves, something we haven't seen in months. Our runners had an auspicious kind of start with, I think that's the right word, perhaps, with spiders, zombies, and sharks all having Blizzard, which was very fun.
Class changes now.
Yeah, thehangrycanuck had a late class change. I don't know if I like that or not, but...
Didn't understand why he did that. Mainly because it's not like he kept his black belt alive. That's the only reason why I would consider to not class change early. Excalibur. You see on and the Canucks side that he didn't pick up the hooray
Give
game.
us a little hooray. So we've got some Brack strats over here. Oh boy, Kraken's got fast. We will see if he gets all slap happy. Yeah, PapaFoiz is really trying with his Brack strats here. Did I miss fade at no, that wasn't at 3. That had to have been at 7 or something, right? I didn't miss fade at 3, right? That seems more simple than I was giving credit for.
What are you called? Earth.
I don't think I mind this play. You're pretty well leveled at this point to do the encounters. You're not going to see the zombies. I don't think there's a whole lot here that's going to give you trouble. I think you're appropriately leveled. If you translated your slab, just come to this region, knock it out real quick. Realistically, now that our runners have 2 ribbons and a good bit of fighter armor and weapons, you really don't need to check a whole lot of chests here. You might still want to find that power gauntlet, but don't go out of your way for it.
Yeah, it might be whether you want to grind levels, and because you won't really have extra to work to really grind in Temple of Fiends, to grind in Sky Castle, which hasn't been seen by any of our runners right now.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because you really don't know what Temple of Fiends is going to look like.
Greyworms, werewolves, especially with the Greyworms having heat.
So to sort of continue the recap, this is a sort of last chance to break into the playoffs for our 2 runners. Both of our runners are 2-2 at week 5. The winner of this match qualifies for our play-in race. I consider that the playoffs because it's just like baseball. You get a 1 chance to make the bracket stages. And so the winner of this game gets to play in our play-in race to attempt to make the bracket stage. The loser of this race watches from the sidelines. And so we've got a pretty good race going here between thehangrycanuck and PapaFoiz. Unfortunately, thehangrycanuck has not been down to carry yet, so the advantage has to go to PapaFoiz at this point.
Has two orbs lit. He's got 2 ribbons. He's got the Defensor. He's got Excalibur. That's on the both sides though. But the 2 orb advantage is immense, and like he's already level 20. Party members.
Yeah, he's got a solid amount of levels and is pretty well ready to go for the next incoming challenges as he's going to make his way to Sky Castle. Would not surprise me if he blew by the first floor of Mirage, but he may be still looking for that power gauntlet. It would not surprise me if he checked the bottom floor here of chests. Nope, he's going to skip it. No problem.
And you see those Catmen with Blaze.
Yeah, the downside I mentioned earlier to this party is he's down to the fighter and the white wizard, the knight and the night white wizard. They don't have the best run rates in the world. They get a little better as they go up in levels, but it's by no means a satisfactory level of luck, especially with only 2 of them.
Yeah, the one thing, and especially with not having a 3rd ribbon, that's the only disadvantage. But I do think he's got life charges right now, because he's already level 20 on his white mage. Black mage, once he gets deeper, if he wants his black mage to gain more levels.
All right, Edge Figaro, thanks for the update. Those of you just joining us from the Will Cleosis Lord Fizzlebeef match, that one is one of what we call pair down matches, where if you have an odd or a non-power of 2 number of members in your tournament, sometimes a higher ranked player is going to play a lower ranked player. Will Cleosis at 2-2 up against Lord Fizzlebeef. If Lord Fizzlebeef wins, he makes the bracket stage without the play-in race. Will Cleosis, playing for his life, upsets Lord Fizzlebeef. Both runners now qualify only for the play-in race. Good news for one, bad news for another.
Not checking any chest in Sky or Mirage.
See, I feel like on the odd chance luck was on your side, I'd like checking those 4 chests. I think that's one of the things that led to, and I don't mean to self-tout here, but I think it's one of the things that helped lead me to my victory over Ikman Vyas. He did not check those 4 freebie chests. We call them freebies because realistically, it's only a handful of steps over to the room, and then once you get in the room, there's no encounters to check all of those chests. So they are more free than I think a lot of people give credit for, but perhaps in his mind, he feels like he has to be happy with what he's got. I'd still be looking for that power gauntlet, but I, at least check the freebies. I could get not going out of your way. As at the hour 10 mark, we have thehangrycanuck lighting his first orb, the Earth Orb. We'll see where he heads to next. It may look like Volcano to get the job done there.
And he crushes the Volcano.
So let's go ahead and get some of those Bless RNGs in chat as PapaFoiz prepares for the Bridge of Destiny. We're hoping for a Warmax sighting. The Bridge of Destiny has the highest threshold for encounters, so there is the possibility of a large number of encounters. Also, we have the dreaded Warmech that looms on the horizon.
Also,
there it is.
Encounter.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, wow.
And he's going for it. Let's see what happens. He's got fairly high absorb, not a whole lot of evade, but fairly high absorb. One of the features of Warmech is that he shares a skill pool with the Temple of Fiends bosses, so he could have... Oh! He just absolutely obliterated that white mage. He's getting a little Kraken slap happy here. This could be trouble. It's got a fairly weak spell pool. While that's a good thing for PapaFoiz, that's a bad thing for PapaFoiz's future, because that means some of the lower level spells are off the table, or not, the lower level spells are off the table, increasing the likelihood. Though here comes a boatload of experience for that fighter.
So good for his knight. That means that he probably won't be worried much about any bosses for Temple of Fiends.
If he makes it out of this Tiamat fight, he still has to...
Yeah, Tiamat will be...
Okay.
thehangrycanuck is on carry.
Yeah, you can blitz down to that carry in 2 or 3 minutes flat with the damage tiles. You don't take any encounters on the damage tiles, so if you take damage tiles most of the way, you can get down to carry very quickly. So we've got this fight with Tiamat. Tiamat's already chunked down fighter a little bit. It looks like it's probably sufficient to get the job done. 4 hits, 169, 3 hits, 212. He'll probably get the job done in a few more rounds. Oh, no, a sleep too. He bails out of it easily, though.
The one good thing about sleep is, like, you will wake up the next round.
Yeah, if you did not it does cost you a turn of swinging regardless, so whether you've taken your action and then are put to sleep, or if you're put to sleep and then it basically eats your action to wake up. Solid amount of experience. He gets to level 25. If he could take these last few steps and make it out, he does. His fighter is set.
It's always nice to have a fighter that can really kill stuff, that can... Like, you could put your knight in front for the rest of the game, for every feed, even maybe Kraken you could take a slappy happy Kraken hit.
And that might be in his best interest to save that white mage. Edge Figaro pointing out Mega Ultra Chicken. No, he is legend.
side, he's going to go to Sea Shrine and hopefully kill some octopus.
So we've got PapaFoiz now really just has to try and blitz his way through the Earth Cave. Hangry Canuck is at least a full dungeon behind, depending on how he handles this Sea Shrine and how he handles the Floating Fortress Sky Castle. I think the big thing that cost Hangry Canuck was probably double dipping that volcano. Volcano pickups were nice, but he never class changed to make full advantage of the items he got from the armory. And then double dipping out of there probably cost him a little bit of time. If he was able to take the whole of Volcano, basically like PapaFoiz did in one swing, it probably would have saved him a little bit of time. Right now, I think there's probably a few more factors. He went and attempted a pop grind. That didn't work out. Then there was trying to grind kind of in front of Crescent Lake, and there was just kind of little things. I think it's just a series of little things that set Hangry Canuck back about as far as he did, because neither of our runners have taken like a major wipe. They both struggled a little bit through castle ordeals with the blizzard zombies and whatnot, but I don't think either one of our runners have taken like a major wipe. PapaFoiz almost did with that Warmech, but managed to bail himself out.
Yeah, PapaFoiz did have troubles at the beginning, but I mean his pop grind helped him to, I think, save some time later, because he was able to have some tents while Hangry Canuck didn't have a saving method. So like he was pretty much I would say he was probably steps away from Crescent Lake, hoping to get the canoe.
Yep. Yeah, that is one point. He did use a lot of time with being out of saving items. He was saved in the middle of the ocean, trying to get to Crescent Lake, and he took several wipes in the process of going from the middle of the ocean to Crescent Lake. Each one of those wipes probably cost him, maybe a good minute or two, with not only the lost progress, but having to make that progress back up. He did get to the floater first, but I think it was only partially because PapaFoiz had a little bit of that pop grind at the time, and even then the pop grind I don't really believe it was that successful. Where PapaFoiz really gained some of those levels was right outside in Cardia Islands. Grabbing a couple of levels there I think was huge.
Rights were really useful for PapaFoiz.
So, friendly reminder for those of you joining us, this is a winner-go-home situation. The winner of this match qualifies for the playoffs in our play-in race. The loser commentates for the remainder of the tournament. Those who can do, those who can't commentate.
With Hangry Canuck, and that's the one thing that is scaring me, because he's got lower levels behind. It could be trouble. I think level 16 right now for his 3 party members.
Yeah, for a 3-party setup, that is pretty low, because if you're doing a 3-party and have redistributed your experience, you kind of want 20 or 21 on your party, and that's not because you took more fights, it's just that distribution of the same experience. There are a handful of times I wished he had taken maybe 2 or 3 extra fights. I would have maybe liked to have seen a couple of extra eyes. I may, especially considering he was 12, I might have wanted to see him do a couple of the Zombie D fights. Though the Zombie D fights can be hit or miss. They're really only good if you get 2 Zombie Ds. When you get 1, it's a little bit rougher, because it takes about the same amount of time to kill him for less experience. And maybe a little eye grind would have been prudent. First he gets slap happy, then he fasts.
That could be trouble.
Yeah, especially with that fast, I'd like to see some mitigation. I'd like to see a defense sword charge from the fighter here, but I think he's just going all out, trying. Oh, fighter takes a good hit there. 11 for 67. That's solid.
PapaFoiz he's ready for Temple of Fiends.
Yeah. And PapaFoiz burning inventory down to put heals in a good spot. That's definitely one of those veteran moves that Will Cleosis likes to point out a lot. It's always good to move your heal potions into the bottom left slot. You can't move them yourself. You have to finagle your items a little bit, and that includes dumping any extra save items you may have. That heal potion in the bottom slot is going to require the fastest input to be able to heal his party members when they get lower, when they need the health. That's just one of those little mechanical time-safe things. The game is a lot of, gas dragons also have blaze. My goodness.
Oh, the seed still keeps giving it.
It's really funny because 119 Temple of Fiends entrance for PapaFoiz is pretty solid, despite what the seed has attempted to throw at our runners. Ship start. Spiders and zombies and sharks with blizzard, catmen and zombie Ds, and gray worms with blaze. Lots of little things, cobras with cremate, asps with scorch. Little things tried to get our runners to lag behind a bit. So entering at 120 on a ship seed has been a fairly nice run for PapaFoiz.
Addition chests were okay because it was muddy. It was not a house, or I think it was a tent that would have wrecked PapaFoiz's inventory.
All right, so while PapaFoiz is making his way to the Earth Floor before he goes and encounters the first fiend, I want to take this time to give a huge shout out to Randomizer for hosting us tonight, for Norestra and the tireless work he does to put on these restreams and everything that does. I certainly hope he got to go have his dinner tonight. If you like the content that you see here, feel free to give Randomania and its auxiliary channels a follow. There's a ton of randomized content, not just Final Fantasy, but all kinds. Dragon Warrior Randomizer, even some Mario Brothers Randomizer. There's really some good stuff out there. Randomania has all of that content for you. So if you like what you see, give them a follow. If you also like Final Fantasy Randomizer, feel free to give these two runners a follow. This is the kind of content that they run on a consistent basis. And so if this is the content you like, feel free to follow our runners. Also, if you'd like to join in the discussion or even get into the game yourself, feel free to give our Discord channel a follow. There's a new players help channel. If this looks like something that's interesting you, we would certainly love to have you join our community. We have a ton of new players coming in right now at the height of our Swiss flags at our tournament. So it's always good to see the new players. You guys are welcome to join us. Follow us on our Discord. We certainly would love to have you, as it looks like PapaFoiz is about to hit the Lich 2 fight. We also want to hear from you, the community here. There are some straw polls there in the chat. We are soliciting advice for our current mascot as Lich goes down like he's paper. We don't ever really respect Lich 2. We're looking for our lizard mascot, whether you like the iguana, the agama, or the saria. Vote on that. Which one is the greatest sword in the game? And you have the chance to make your voices heard on the bonus stream. The winner of this tournament will run a bonus stream for you with 4 classes of the community's choice. The last tournament's class was Thief, and so our runners had to run 4 Thieves, which was a great race. Now you have a chance to vote. I think it's either 4 White Mage or 4 Black Mage that's currently in the lead. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what our tournament champion and perhaps our final 4, if they are invited again, get to run. As PapaFoiz is here on Carry 2, not a lot of noise from Carry 2 either. So you want to hope that they have all the bad spells and spent their time either casting the crappy ones or just meleeing. But it's about to get serious here.
Yeah, it's the big question is if the spells were maybe like in the Lich, like 7 spells, like we will never see it. That's always the hope. And one thing usually I take about Final Fantasy Randomizer is because you don't know where the spells or skills will land. Is the best fiend is a fiend that is dead, so you want to kill it as fast as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. The longer a fight drags out, and I mean, some of these spell and skill lists can go up to 8 spells deep. So the longer a fight goes, the more at risk you are for potentially seeing a particularly nasty spell. As we have an Opal Bracelet sighting, I don't remember whether, I think it was either as part of the sea dive that PapaFoiz did not check, or he found it in one of the earlier chests here on the first floor Mirage. Here we go with the Kraken 2 fight. We will see if he is slap happy or if he's got a nasty skill list or spell list or what. Opens with Quad X. That's a good sign. That would have taken out the Black Mage more than likely. So it's definitely good to cast it on somebody over 300 hit points. It's also a good start to see because that is one of the less harmful spells as he takes basically one whack of the Black Mage and smokes him out. 2 hits for 113, and I think that might have been a crit. I don't know, but 2 hits means he has a solid amount of evasion. 112 is a decent amount. Okay, that's a regular hit. 2 hits for 172. If you live long enough, you can chunk him down, but this is going to be a little bit of a struggle here. There's a crit. Well, another Quad X. Are there 2 Quad X's, or does he have a short spell list? Ooh, he had no hit points. That's a solid sign for PapaFoiz. I think that means he rolled under. The percentages for this round is 67 to 150% of enemy stats. That includes things like hit points, absorb rating, etc., etc. Kraken 2's base hit points, I think, is in the 1100 neighborhood, so it's certainly possible to roll up to 1.5 times that, but it is also possible to lower down to about 2/3 of that, so I think we definitely saw a low roll on the hit points for Kraken 2. Like 1,000 even, maybe?
No, it's 900.
Oh, wow, okay, so it's possible that he could have gotten up to 1,350 and down as low as, I think, 600. So we've got Tiamat 2 coming up. Tiamat 2 usually doesn't, and I say usually, does not hit as hard as Kraken 2, mostly because of the lack of number of hits. Kraken gets a silly number of hits because he's an octopus. So Tiamat 2 usually doesn't hit as hard. He doesn't have as many hits, therefore it doesn't do as much damage. It can, though, so more often than not, most people will leave the fighter in that top slot. If you get 1 defense sword charge off, usually you're going to be fine. It looks like he's not taking that risk, though. He's going to put Black Mage in that top slot. Yeah, he's going to opt to save that temper charge for Chaos, as he just absolutely obliterates the Black Mage. But what doesn't obliterate the Black Mage? He doesn't have 300 hit points. Even a tickle from Tiamat 2 can do that. That's 3 hits, or 4 hits, 300. It's going to do significantly less, I think, to the Knight. 2 for 121 on the White Mage. That's some good mitigation. He's going to get 1 or 2 more charges of White Shirt. Oh, but his fighter's not hitting very hard. He's got to rely on some crits here.
That's when the Vorpal would shine.
So we still haven't seen really a skill list yet. I think all he's done is melee.
Because I think for PapaFoiz's side, he's going to use a lot of White Shirts, and that means that he's going to have high evade, so he can win a long fight like that.
Yeah, that's a really good sign that it looks like he's pure melee only. If he's pure melee only, I actually would hold off on that fade charge and I would just wait, but I think maybe he's feeling like speed's a factor here, because that fighter, unless he crits, is not doing a whole lot of damage. There's 181 on a 2-hit. I think it's Tiamat has either 1,000 or 1,100 experience or hit points, which means he can get up to 1,500 hit points. Certainly a good lengthy fight might be on his hands here, especially considering he's doing probably less than 100 per turn on average. And there he goes.
The problem on the Angry Canuck's side is Knight is dead.
Ooh, and he's about to take on Tiamat 1. Tiamat 1 is no joke. I mean, he can hit hard, he can have some spells, but he didn't really give PapaFoiz much trouble, but he did open for at least 100 or so, 150 or so on that Knight, so it could spell trouble for our 2 mages here. So PapaFoiz getting into a little bit of trouble. Probably, I want to say he used that life spell early. You want that run rate, but you also don't want to run the risk of losing that Black Mage again before you get to Chaos. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We have not seen much out of these fiends at all. Carry went down quick. Lich went down quick. Kraken went down relatively early enough and Tiamat was all melee, so we have not seen hardly any skills. We've only seen a handful of spells on. Oh, and here's an opening turn nuclear.
He survived and did this temper. Used this temper. Now it's probably just nuke for the black mage. Although he still has
He's
one.
going to get one more charge of temper on there just to burn that one, burn the temper charge, and two, on the odd chance that Chaos has Cure 4, then his casting won't necessarily be in vain if that fighter can get powered up a bit. Yeah, as a regular hit for 95, he probably wants one more charge of evasion on that fighter. I think he's gonna protect that white mage first.
And thehangrycanuck was able to brack Tiamat 1, so that will really help, because honestly it would have been hard if it didn't work.
Yeah, thehangrycanuck really bailed out with that Brack strat there, so good for him. He's got his 4th Orblet. He's going to make his first dive here to Temple Fiends shortly.
Passed.
All right, so he should have sufficient mitigation on his characters. Oh, there's Nuke nearly obliterating his party. Hopefully, PapaFoiz can get a Cure 4 off on that fighter. We'll see what happens here. Oh, he gets the Cure 4 off. That's huge. As a swirly comes down, that would have taken his party out. Oh, no, a huge crit.
Wow.
Oh, and oh, wow. That's crazy.
Wow.
He is hanging on by the skin of his teeth here. Desperately, really low roll on that nuke. Crazy low roll on that nuke. Hopefully he's got enough evasion. Oh no, there's another crit! PapaFoiz goes down. This has suddenly become a race. As soon as thehangrycanuck finishes buying his supplies, he's going to make his first Temple of Fiends dive. He's going to be right behind PapaFoiz, who's going in for a second time here.
Come on, thehangrycanuck, he doesn't have the levels. That's the question. Is PapaFoiz was found it hard without the Excalibur, and the big question is, you see that fight, you revive the black belt so he can maybe take a hit, so your black mage has one more. But like, I don't think it would really change a lot, because like, nuclears and nukes.
Yeah, because if he opens, I mean, literally, because his black belt's level 4, if he opens with anything, that black belt's dead. So the only thing you could even hope for is that he delays a turn with a melee attack. But that is pretty crazy. That the sheer volume of crits that Chaos had there. Usually you think with enough defense sword charges, enough white shirt coverage, that you have enough, but critical hits can go through evasion, and especially considering it was the same crit each time, 259. So I think in the future those are going to be what he crits for, even if that fighter gets evasion up enough, which means he really has to figure out how to kind of keep his white mage alive maybe a little longer to drop another Cure 4 where it's going to be necessary. Cure 4 was unfortunately outside of the knight's usability. I think it was at 5 or 6. 6 it was. And so it's just going to be interesting to see how this plays forward, because it's almost not a situation of levels. It's not a matter of gaining more levels or something like that's going to help you. Certainly, if you got to level 50, you could, overcome with a maximum number of hit points. But, in terms of racing, there's really not much more PapaFoiz can do, but maybe rely on a little better luck here.
Aside from getting to level 9 to level 29, I don't really see, because at level 20 you would get the 5th swing of Excalibur. But aside from that, I don't see what he can really do. But that's it.
Yeah, and that's the part that's just going to be rough. Does he hold back a 3rd charge of temper? We know Tiamat's got a high level of absorb, and unfortunately, it looks like he might be grinding a little bit here. Maybe he wants a couple of extra spell charges. This is actually not a bad play either if he can get out. Get a couple of extra temper charges. That's probably the direction you feel like you might have to go in. Anything to just increase the speed of your damage, because there's not much more you can do to increase your mitigation at this point. So we originally had Hangry Canuck at about 15 minutes behind because PapaFoiz's first entrance was at the 119 mark, and now we've got Hangry Canuck's first entrance at the 134 mark. But it looks like PapaFoiz is doing some grinding here. He's got exit at 7 and sufficient levels on that white mage to be able to cast it. So I think he might be trying to grab a level or 2 here so that he could probably have maybe 1 more temper charge, 1 more maybe fade charge, who knows.
He doesn't have exit though.
Did he not pick that up from... Oh, he's got warp. There we go. So there we go. That's why he stood by that staircase and grinded. He is out of houses. He burned his last house to settle his inventory. So he has to now either go back and stay at the inn or grab a house. He'll probably stay at the inn. What is going on to those of you who joined us in chat? I see from the Will Cleosis Lord Fizzlebeef match. Congratulations to Will Cleosis punching his ticket to the plan race. This has been kind of an interesting seed if you are just joining us. This was a ship-required seed in which the TNT was at the Lazy Dwarves, so it wasn't too terribly long that the runners were with their ships. Vicky had the floater. The canoe was vanilla at the Sages. But there have been a whole host of things that have gotten our runners into a bit of trouble. Spiders had Blizzard, Zombols had Blizzard. Both attempted Peninsula Power Grinds to relative failure. Sharks had Blizzard as well, which made the seas pretty treacherous. Catmen, Grey Worms, and something else I forgot, had Blaze. So our runners have kind of been up and down all match. We have not had any major wipes until PapaFoiz unfortunately took a wipe to Chaos. Chaos has some seemingly exceptional crit rate, and it doesn't seem to matter how much mitigation he has in terms of pure evasion. The only thing, I guess, maybe you go back and you look for Fog 2 or something, see if it's at a friendly level. Try to get some of that armor down. But even then, I'm not even sure that will help over crits.
I don't think it does. I could be wrong, though. But you know what? He's at level 27 on this night. I think PapaFoiz is hoping that he's going to get to level 29 by the time he reaches Chaos. So it should be a bit easier because he would get 1 extra swing. And like he was hitting once or twice like on Chaos. So like maybe that extra swing would do the difference. That's probably like the difference, honestly.
Because that's a huge thing. We've not seen Fast, so I think Fast is level 8. Because I think we saw both 7s, I believe, and so we believe Fast is level 8 in this particular seed, which every little bit helps. We have not found the Power Gauntlet either, and so we are down to basically a handful of temper charges. I think it's in the neighborhood of 4. Maybe he got that level on Black Mage that would get him that 5th charge of temper. We'll see. But Tiamat 2 has an egregiously high absorb rating, and so we'll see whether he waits until the Tiamat fight to burn those tempers. Kraken 2 wasn't anything to sniff at either. He had kind of high evasion and semi-high absorb as well, so it'd be interesting to see how he approaches these fights. Melee largely took out Lich 2 here, so unless Lich 2 opens with something nasty, he really breezed right through, just like he did again.
But the thing is, Chaos has nuclear and he has at least 2 nukes that we have seen.
And here are those Grey Worms. Grey Worms with Blaze. Here are those Grey Worms with Blaze I was telling you about earlier. This is a 4-pack that you encounter on the fire floor of Temple of Fiends. And so 2 ribbons helps you mitigate some of it, but 4 Blazes can be really rough. So the biggest downside here is Life was level 6, and it shares a level with Cure 4, and PapaFoiz better be careful here not to lose that White Mage. So Cure 4 and Life share the same level, and so every time there's poison damage. We missed that because he had Blaze. The Grey Worms were kind of low-key nasty in this game. So we got life 2 that occupies the same slots as Fade, which means for every life 2 you use, you don't get to cast Fade. You see Cure 4s on the same slot as life, which means every time you have to use a life spell, you lose the ability to use Cure 4 in battle. And so that could be huge depending on the damage that's done to fighter. I almost wonder if you put that fighter in the top slot so that your white mage can live to cure him, because it's the luck of the crit rate that really matters here. And if you can have some good luck and let fighter take a bunch of those hits, the regular hits will be mitigated, no damage, no problem. Those crits are going to be important, but it's probably going to be equally as important that somebody lives long enough to be able to cure him. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he approaches the chaos fight here the second time around.
Yeah, like, I don't think the first 2 fiends were really hard. Kraken didn't have a lot of HP, so like it shouldn't be a problem to set up. And PapaFoiz Knight is already level 28, so he just needs one more level.
Yeah, we saw that Kraken 2 had... Yeah, Kraken 2 had a low roll on his hit points, almost low minimum on his hit points, maybe 7-ish hundred hit points. And so, depending on how he approaches this fight, he could take Kraken maybe without temper charges to buff him for the chaos fight. Perhaps he did get another charge through the level up, and so through the previous grind that he just did. Hopefully he can get that level, or get that sort of temper level. So we're about to see how many. It looks like he's not going to open with temper. He's going to elect to save that for Tiamat Chaos. So we'll see how that works out. We know that he only has Quad X. I think it's Quad X, something else that wasn't necessarily consequential, and another Quad X coming.
No.
Lit 2. So his next spell on this list is Quad X as well. Yeah, Seth, for pointing out in chat, he did have a solo Knight Warmat kill. He was 28. He's 28 now. He has gained a level with those 4 Grey Worm fights. He is 28 going into this fight. The remainder of his party, I think, is in the 22-ish area. As we see, we're down to the solo fighter again, which is unfortunate because he has no temper, and he's just going to reset out. I almost don't blame him because he has the knowledge of what Tiamat 2 and what Chaos are like, and both require temper. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he approaches this. As we got thehangrycanuck making his way down to Kraken for the first time. Hangry's going to be at a little disadvantage because the red mage, I believe, not only by virtue of his levels, but by virtue of being a red mage, is going to have less charges of temper. So we're going to see how he approaches these 2 fights. Both of them are very equally geared. Both of them found the dragon armor in the volcano, found 2 ribbons in Castle Ordeals, the Excalibur in the dwarf chests. They're pretty well equipped, and they're equipped at about the similar point. As we've got Shinobi in chat there with the 20 bits. Thank you so much for donating to Randomania. It is much appreciated. Shout out to Shinobi there.
It's actually, but thanks, Shinobi.
All right, so here's thehangrycanuck in his first attempt at Kraken 2. Leaving the fighter in the top slot and opting for the nukes. He doesn't know that Kraken has low hit points. That's probably not a terrible thing to have, but you want to have Kraken start casting those Quad X's right now because he's got through the first Quad X, now the Lit 2. The second Quad X is coming. He wants to get this fight done as soon as possible before he starts getting slap happy again. Oh, and down goes the white mage. We'll have to see, but we know life was at 6. It wasn't a red wizard learnable spot. We'll see if he grabbed it, see if he can save this.
The level
Looks like he did. He's down to his last charge of life. Manages to luck out when Kraken headhunts your 1 life caster.
It looks like Kraken has a thing for life casters. I don't know what it is.
They're squishy and juicy and full of protein, I think, and that's why Krakens tend to love magic casters. They're less hard of a shell to break. So the big difference in these runs has been that PapaFoiz wiped to Chaos. If you are just joining us, he wiped to Chaos because Chaos had a surprisingly high critical hit rate, which goes through the evasion, and unfortunately, not only is it a crit, but it's a crit for probably about half his hit points at 259, and so we know that's a pretty big constant that's going to happen. He took a second wipe, an opt-out reset to crack into the second pass-through because, well, he finds White Mages delicious, and so, unfortunately, he has to take a reset out, so now he's a couple floors behind hangrycanuck, who has not seen any of these fights yet. He doesn't quite know what he is in for, as he has put Red Mage in the top slot, and of course, trying to protect that White Wizard from taking those hits, using those nukes a bit to his advantage, trying to get the HP. It seems like it was a standard hit point Tiamat, as the Red Mage goes down. So we're out of... we have no
amount of HP that he was hit for.
Oh, you always hate to see that. If you had, got hit for an exact amount, you're like, come on, couldn't it have been 1 less or something like that. But unfortunately, that's how the dice roll here. As we got some mage staff strats. There's a good hit for 270 there. We'll see if he can keep that one going. But this is basically the problem that PapaFoiz kind of encountered with this Tiamat. He is very slap happy and doesn't cast spells. Thankfully, with enough mitigation, you can get your defensive up. And Tiamat 2 is more or less just a long slog, as opposed to Kraken 2, which had some spells. Kraken 2 tended to be a little more rough. And so now we have Chaos, and Chaos opens with Nuclear, if you guys will recall from PapaFoiz's run. So it looks like he's got levels and supplies. He'll walk into this fight, hopefully at full hit points. He still has to walk the remainder of the way to the staircase. Hopefully he arrives at this fight with full hit points as he encounters 7 sorcerers. This isn't that bad. But you don't want to see the Twilight Cosplay Club. You don't want the red vampire, the wizard vampire, the zombie dragon fight. That one's kind of rough. 4 worms is rough too, but no problem for hangrycanuck as he makes it to the chaos fight. As I'm eyeing, it looks like he might have 2 charges of temper at level 5. We'll see if that's enough. As he's going over his equipment one more time. This is kind of Hangry's to lose, but we will see because Chaos is definitely not being a pushover here. As he's trying to get a little mitigation up early to start. This is good. We will just see how he encounters the critical hit rate. A slight disadvantage, I think, for hangrycanuck, only in so much that PapaFoiz's Knight is 27, or was 27, I think, in that chaos fight. And so we'll see how he handles it. He's getting the evasion up, but the evasion's not really the big deal. It's kind of the critical hit rate.
Nukes. There's that, and there's the nuke.
Ooh, nearly max roll nuke. That's a good sign. He's got 1 more nuke in his arsenal. This is where PapaFoiz really didn't get a whole lot of the nuke strats in, kind of opting and relying on the melee. There's a good hit right there. 3 for 227, non-crit.
This.
We haven't seen that nuclear yet. Where is it? And that's it. He is opting to heal, which is a good sign. Trying to get those hit points up. Looks like he's got a good... there's the nuclear. Eats it almost no problem. That fighter took a little more hit points than you would like. And here comes that last charge of Cure 4 on the White Mage. Here's the swirly. Nobody likes to see the swirly. It is an underrated skill. does a whole lot of damage, and unfortunately his party's in a little bit of a hurting position right here. The evasion's good. The question is going to be whether the crit rate overcomes the evasion. How many times, and does it hurt him like it hurt PapaFoiz?
Yeah, that's a big problem. But it looks like he's set up. The question is like when the nuke come up.
Yeah, and we haven't really seen the rest of his table either. We know he's got nuclear and swirl, but we really haven't seen a spell yet. And we know the melee is, if he's lucky to get that melee non-crit mitigation, it's really nice. There's a fast coming out, kind of inconsequential with all of the melee, but I think it does increase the likelihood that a critically hit shot might land.
I think nuke is next. I could be wrong though.
So there's crack. We saw crack earlier. Yeah, Hangry Canuck is really getting lucky here with the mitigated non-crits. There's one of the crits that hits, or well, it was a 2-hit, so I don't think that was crit related. There's the other nuclear, so now it's a matter of can he overcome versus the mitigation, and sure enough, he does. Ladies and gentlemen, get your GGs out in chat for Hangry Canuck, who has qualified for the playoffs. A fairly solid chaos fight, down to nothing left. You gotta feel for PapaFoiz getting crit through all of that evasion on, I think, 3 separate occasions, because I think he even got to heal a little bit. Rough call from our runners. We're going to try and get both of them in here for an interview.
It looks like PapaFoiz forfeited, and he won't do an interview. On Hangry Canuck, who is going to show up in the interview room soon.
You gotta feel bad for PapaFoiz there. That was just a rough thing to happen. We'll talk with Hangry Canuck. He's a little confused as to how he got the win today, but certainly we will fill him in. That is an official victory with an SRL time of 150.24. And so we've got him in the waiting room. If we could just pull him in, we'll get a couple of words out of him before we sign this broadcast out. So man, what a match that was. It's like I said, and I could say probably 100 times how unfortunate it is to take a wipe to just sheer bad luck, and that was kind of unfortunate.
PapaFoiz got really unlucky, and for this, how many crits that he got through, that Chaos got through, and I think I saw a couple of nukes also. I don't think the Hangry Canuck saw that.
No, and that's another unfortunate thing about sort of turn order and luck, sort of a little more luck based, because we know Hangry Canuck came in at a bit of a disadvantage in regards to party or otherwise, where it looked like PapaFoiz had all of the advantages that you needed to take that fight, to take all of those fights really, and I think that Chaos fight was going fine for him. But unfortunately, just getting crit through max evasion, it's just an unfortunate way. Among many of the tournament losses that have occurred here, it's just another unfortunate sort of way to lose. Is just to have the bad luck on that crit rate. All right, and so now in the Randomania chat room, we have Hangry Canuck joining us. Hangry Canuck, man, GG.
I'm curious as to what happened.
You were about 15 minutes behind, and he hit the Chaos fight, and he had maximum evasion and was crit through maximum evasion on 3 separate times. And unfortunately, it did 259 each crit. and unfortunately he just had unspeakably bad luck to get that crit through evasion.
Wow. Well, the way I started off, I was just doing the memes, and I knew I was frigged. The way I started off.
It's funny some of the decisions both of you made in separate occasions. Both of you opted for the Peninsula of Power Grind to basically no success.
Well, everything had Blizzard. I didn't come across an enemy that didn't have something bad.
Yeah, that early game was really rough for you. The seas were rough too. Sharks had Blizzard.
Well, I figured I forgot I had the tail. People must have been like, well, why isn't he going to class change? Well, I didn't think I had the tail. I thought I was in the waterfall.
Yeah, we were wondering because we were saying that you hadn't opted to class change. Now, I mean, White Magic, I think you'll probably agree, White Magic was pretty terrible this seed, so you really didn't have much need to class change until you found all the stuff, right?
Boat magic things were horrible. This definitely would have been a thief seed, this one.
And PapaFoiz joining us in chat. Man, PapaFoiz GG, we feel your pain in the number of ways people have lost in this tournament, losing to the unfortunate crit through max evasion on, I think it was 3 separate times for that amount. Certainly a terrible way to lose, and this is coming from a guy who got rubbed through a ribbon once, and so I understand your pain. But we have Hangry Canuck here in the booth saying GG, qualifying for the play-in race. That's got to feel pretty good, right?
Oh, yeah, but I don't deserve it after the way I played this one. Good game to you there, Papa. Yeah, I don't like to hear when people lose like that.
Yeah, a big question. How do you prepare for the plane race now that you are in this race?
The same way I prepared for this one. I don't do anything.
That's the spirit.
No, I'm just gonna go into the plane race, play my game, and if I get through, I get through. If I don't, I don't. I'll just start commentating again, that's all.
Well, congrats once again for qualifying for the playoffs, and huge sympathies to PapaFoiz to lose that way. But such is the dice, and such many a player in this tournament have lost in such a way. So we say GG to Hangry Canuck. Hangry Canuck, do you got any final thoughts on this one?
That seed was horrible. And I played it very horrible.
Each one we do, hopefully we just learn a little more from the last one. So hopefully your next seed, hopefully this play-in race seed will be a little more friendly for you. We will see how that goes. Allie, always great commentating with you. Do you have any final thoughts?
That's Final Fantasy Randomizer in a nutshell. You prepare, hoping to get past the chaos, and it wrecks you. And I think Canuck got the good luck that he needed to get past chaos, where PapaFoiz didn't, and that was pretty much the ball game.
Well, let's put it this way: when I was shooting off lightning twos and the mage staff at chaos, I was like, "Oh, there's no way."
I think that damage added up though, so it wasn't that bad though. It's always better to just do damage than not do anything if you can't do anything.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to wrap up our broadcast. Let me make one final appeal to you. If you like the content you see, feel free to give Randomania and its auxiliary channels a follow. Feel free to give PapaFoiz and Hangry Canuck your follows as well if you like more of this Final Fantasy Randomizer content. Huge shout out to Norastra for doing this restream. Huge props, and thank you so much to Randomania for giving our little community a platform to be able to demonstrate our game and to get new players involved. Speaking of new players, if you like what you see and you would like to get involved in the discussion, feel free to join us on our Discord channel. We're always welcoming of new people and new players. Either if you want to sit and discuss or if you want to learn the game more in depth, there is a community slot for you. For Alligabrap, I have been Sforzondo. It has been a pleasure. Tomorrow, be sure to tune into Randomania. We have the Super Mario Land Randomizer League that is continuing tomorrow. That is going to be at 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock on some of the respective channels. Our next Final Fantasy Randomizer Spring Tournament match is going to be on tomorrow night at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern between Salty Fry and Silverfire. That is another one of our 4-0 3-1 pair downs. Salty winning kind of gets him to 5-0. Silverfire is looking to make their way into the bracket and skip over the play-in race. Some great quality content here on Randomania coming up, so I certainly want to encourage you guys to tune in. Once again, huge props and huge thanks to the Randomania community for giving us a platform. I hope you've enjoyed the content that you have watched this evening. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen, and be excellent to each other.